Lately, every time you come over, you end up talking about Uchiha Itachi, the Hokage said, sitting in his chair and pulling on his pipe. Danzo stood at attention, watching him. He had advised Hiruzen before that a ninja shouldn't smoke, given that the scent of tobacco would linger on him. Hiruzen had laughed and replied that the Hokage didn't go on secret missions, so it was fine. Danzo hadn't been talking about the present. He was talking about being prepared. Hokage or Genin, a ninja must never forget that at any given moment, in any given place, they were at war. If they needed to not be noticed by an enemy, the scent of the smoke hanging around Hiruzen would give them away. Nothing was absolute in this world. Unaware of what Danzo was thinking, Hiruzen emptied the ashes from his pipe into a dish on his desk, grabbed a pinch of tobacco from the container to one side, and put a flame to the bowl of the pipe. Purple smoke rose up and rolled out the window, disappearing on the wind, piercing Danzo's nose. Even as he winced at the unpleasant smell, his expression did not change in the slightest. Hiruzen was an acquaintance from his Ghanaian days. Danzo had never once used the word friend. Friendship was a product of feelings of collusion between human beings. People use the word friend for the wretched idea of leaning on another person. Danzo had never wanted to lean on someone or be leaned on himself, so he never used soft words like friend. Exhaling smoke, Hiruzen turned his eyes on Danzo. Just as you said, it's been 5 months since he was promoted to Chunin, and Itachi has carried out his missions almost too perfectly. Even on missions using Genni, he has such a grasp on each of their areas of specialization and gives such impeccable orders. It's hard to believe he's only 11. The reports he sends in, too, are very nicely in order, strictly following the format. So those 2 years as a Genin were a loss to both Itachi and to the village, hmm? Better to think of it as a necessary experience. Hiruzen always considered things in a positive light. This way of his was likely what earned him his popularity among the ninja out in the light. However, ninja were essentially creatures of the dark. Danzo always thought it was funny that they set up the ambu as if they could keep the light and the dark separate. Speaking of, Hiruzen dumped the ashes into the dish and sighed. Then he sat up a little straighter in his chair. Lately, long hours of desk work tire me out. Maybe I'm just old. That's your job. Not a single word of sympathy for me? Tell me the story you were about to start. Snorting a little at Danzo's unapproachable manner, Hiruzen opened his mouth. Uchiha Fugaku made an interesting proposal. Fugaku. The sour face of the head of the military police force popped into Danzo's mind. He sounded out the idea of Itachi joining the Anbu. The instant he heard this, Danzo's heart leapt up and nearly did a little dance. He was not foolish enough to allow his glee onto his face. However, he simply replied, I see, and waited for Hiruzen to continue. Fugaku says that Itachi likely won't be able to use his abilities to the fullest in the military police force. He's not looking at him as his own son, but from an objective perspective. He thinks Itachi possesses unparalleled talents as a ninja. He says it's his duty as a father to guide his son to a place where he can fully use his genius. And so he came to me about the possibility of the boy joining the Anbu. A darkness in the depths of his eyes. Hiruzen turned a questioning gaze on Danzo, but he hadn't gotten to the end of his story. He wrapped up by stating his own opinion. Homura and Koharu are totally opposed. They say it's preposterous to have an Uchiha in the Anbu, given its status as a special unit under the direct control of the Hokage. They asked me if I'd forgotten about how the second Hokage established the military police force. The military police force was created to drive the Uchiha clan away from the central functions of the village. Sighing, Hiruzen packed tobacco into his pipe for the third time. Maybe you should stop while we are discussing important business at least. Like a child scolded away by his father, Hiruzen shrugged his shoulders slightly in dissatisfaction before setting the pipe down on his desk. They went so far as to bring up your name, you know. Even if they did eventually agree to the boy being in the Anbu, what would you say given your dislike of the Uchiha line? Nothing but pushback from those two. Homura and Koharu of the Konoha Council. They were also acquaintances of his since childhood. Old people with no great talent who had not stood out in any way during the harder times of the fierce Great War, when so many of their comrades died. They had managed to live such long lives through luck alone. But they had the self-awareness, at least, to know that they should gratefully accept the honorary positions on the council. They didn't have the power to push their own opinions through without leaning on someone with a bigger, more authoritative voice. So you also can't we just let him in then? Hiruzen's eyes widened slightly, a note of suspicion rising up in them. Naturally, he also thought Danzo would be opposed, but Danzo was not opposed in the slightest. Quite the contrary. Fugaku's proposal was a godsend. Right from the start, he had planned for Itachi to join the Anbu, whatever he had to do to make it happen. Uchiha Itachi was an essential element in fulfilling Danzo's ambitions. So much so that Danzo feared that Fugaku would harden in suspicion when he recommended the Anbu. The fact that the proposal had come from the side was nothing other than a windfall. I know you're partial to Itachi, but I thought that you would have shown some disapproval of putting him in the ambush. Hiruzen didn't try to hide the probing look in his eyes. Danzo was calm in the face of the other man's suspicion. Itachi is a sort of ninja you see maybe once every 100 years. Even if he's an Uchiha, we cannot afford to not take advantage of everything he has to offer the village. That answers very you. The third Hokage nodded deeply as if convincing himself. If you approve, then I don't have any objection to Itachi joining the Anbu either. To eliminate the rivalry between the village and the Uchihas, we need to first win over the hearts of the young people. Bringing Itachi into the center of the village life would be a good opportunity for that. Danzo would never agree with Hiruzen's optimistic thinking, but he was grateful that the Hokage approved of Itachi's entry into the Anbu, whatever his reason. But Itachi's only 11. We need to see that he's ready for the Anbu. A mission to join the Anbu? Hmm? Exactly. Would you leave that to me? Break time. Itachi coolly watched the vision of himself that drifted up to the surface when he was relaxed. Izumi walked alongside him, laughing. 5 months since he became a Chunin. Concerned about Itachi never taking a proper day off, the village ordered him to take a longish break of a week. They were going to force him to rest. His father nodded at this order, noting that the timing was right, and told him to also take a break from training with Shisui that week. Given that Itachi had no idea what to do with his time other than missions and training, he couldn't stop feeling like he had suddenly been set adrift in a calm sea. He tried to sleep all day, but his body, used to missions, woke him up before the crows started crowing in the morning. Having no other choice, he was forced to kill time playing with 6-year-old Sasuke and helping him with his training before he started at the academy. Sasuke's gotten really big. Just yesterday, he had been crawling around babbling, but now he could speak like a proper person. He followed Itachi everywhere, calling his name constantly and telling his big brother all about himself. He was beyond delighted to have Itachi there, spending time with him, given that the older boy was normally never at home. After Itachi had spent 3 days watching over Sasuke like this, his father told him to go out and talk with someone his own age. You're tired. Take some time and enjoy this vacation. If you do, you stop saying things like that. Things like that. Fugaku meant the incident at Nakano's shrine. Itachi still regretted giving voice to his true feelings when his brethren had been shouting about how they hated the village. He could have talked until he was blue in the face, but people carried away by passion like that had no ears to listen with. Speech alone was pointless. But he meant what he had said then. Not a word of it had been a lie. The more a person hated, the more the object of their hatred hated them back. And this inevitably led to fighting. He understood his clan's distress, but what exactly would come out of holding hatred in their hearts? His father crushed Itachi's complicated thoughts with one word: tired. Hey, are you listening to me? The high pitched voice broke into his thoughts and echoed in his brain. Itachi blinked for a moment before turning in the direction of the voice. Izumi, walking beside him, with a bounce in his step, her eyes caught his and didn't release them. You should watch where you're going, you know, he remarked. Uh-huh. Her voice also had a bounce to it. You want to take a break over there? She pointed at a tea shop ahead of them. They had left the clan compound and come into the center of the village. Itachi wasn't worried about what people would think seeing them together like this. He was taking a walk with a friend. There was nothing else to it. Two, please, Izumi called out and sat down on a long bench in front of the shop, where a scarlet carpet was laid out. Itachi sat beside her. Come in. He heard a familiar voice from inside the shop. Oh, if it ain't Itachi. The accented voice was that of an old teammate, Shinko. Been ages, huh? Shinko had been with him on Team 2, the team he had first been assigned to after becoming a genin. He was told that, confronted with the reality of the world of the ninja, she had given up on her genin certification. I'm working here now. So it seems. Izumi hesitantly watched Itachi talking so familiarly with the older Shinko. So, your girlfriend? Shinko asked, eyes glittering as she set two cups of tea down on the bench. Friend. Oh, I bet she's all disappointed now. Shinko teased, and Izumi jumped up, surprised. The older girl laughed and turned her eyes back to Itachi. Heard you made Chunin. Nice one. Thanks, he said. Izumi sat quietly, her face turned to the ground. Knew I chose right when I quit the ninja. Shinko hugged the tray she had brought the tea on to her chest. There was all that with Tenma dying, but half of why I quit ninja was 'cause of you. Me? Seeing a genius like you up close. I thought the limits of my own talents were so clear, I hated it. And then I got sad, you know? Started wondering if I should really keep at it at all. So the very next day, I went and quit it. She laughed loudly and delightedly before he heard a voice calling her from inside the shop. Right then, can't be lazing around here. I'll be back when you've got your order sorted. She disappeared into the shop. You really are amazing, huh, Itachi? Izumi murmured, head still hanging after watching Shinko leave. I don't have the kind of talent that would make anyone just give up on being a ninja. But you're going to graduate this year, right? She was 11, so her graduation was about a year early. It wasn't as if she didn't have talent herself. That doesn't count as talent, you know, Izumi noted sadly. As he watched her, Itachi felt a faint joy. Half of the reason Shinko quit is me. That meant that his power had removed a ninja from the world. One fewer ninja meant one less fight. Shinko's confession was proof, albeit meager, that he was not headed down the wrong path. I wanted to ask you something, he said. Izumi lifted her head and looked at him, a thin veil of tears in her eyes. Why do you want to be a ninja? What? Being a ninja means actual battle, which means you have to deal with so many awful, terrible things all the time. A girl like you shouldn't have to go through that. But, I mean, my dad's a ninja, so is that the only reason? It's not just that, Izumi replied, almost a declaration. He caught a glimpse of anger in the black eyes beneath her long lashes. He didn't know what it meant. Walking down the same path as the person you like. Maybe I shouldn't want that. She stood up. See you. When she looked back to smile at him, tears were spilling out of her eyes. She turned around and didn't look back again. What is this? Made your girl cry? Shinko teased, having come to stand behind him at some point. If you can hide your aura that well, maybe you should become a ninja again? No thanks.